Good morning, Eddie. I'm sure you know there's been a lot of interest in the club meetings that have been taking place this week. Could you just tell us what your part in that was and how it was for you?
Yeah, it's an opportunity to see a lot of the people I haven't seen in a while. Obviously, the owners and representatives of PAF were over, and it was constructive. Good meetings. Obviously, I was a small part of that. But yeah, always constructive because I think they clearly care so much about the football club, the long-term planning that's clearly going on a number of levels. Very exciting times, as I said, ahead, I think, for the club, regardless of what happens short-term. So the long-term vision is clearly there.
Maybe this is more of a short-term question, but from those meetings, do you still feel supported in your work and continuing the work that you've been doing over the last 4.5 years?
Yeah, I mean, no change in terms of the support and the infrastructure and how people are working. So yeah, I was pleased by the level of support given to me, but of course, still understanding of how football works and know that we need to get results. So that will never change.
I know a football question, finally, just about Anthony Gordon, who you haven't had for the last couple of matches. Is there a chance that he's fit and available this weekend, and has he been training this week?
Yeah, he did a session on Wednesday, part of the session on Wednesday, and yeah, great to see him back and on the pitch. He's obviously a player of huge quality and one that we've missed. We'll make an assessment on his fitness closer to the game. We'll see how he gets through today.
Eddie, it feels like everywhere you go at the moment, people are asking what's happening with Eddie next season. Will he be here? Will he not be here? I know you've kind of addressed that a couple of times in this room, but did yesterday's meeting with the bosses give you maybe a little bit more clarity as to where your head's at with it all?
I've never needed clarity on my head, in the sense that I'm here and I'm working and I'm committed, and that won't change. Obviously, the football club has to do what a football club has to do, and the football club has to see that we're going in the right direction and there's a positive feeling, and the team's fighting on all fronts to try and get results. I felt at Arsenal there's a real positive upturn in performance. We need to see that continue tomorrow. We know the importance of the game. But I always find with these things you can talk as much as you want. The proof is always in how the team performs. So I'm under no illusions that needs to be positive.
And you're right in what you say there. The performance was better against Arsenal, but you as a team, you really need a win, don't you?
Yeah, we need a win. We need positivity that winning brings. We need to keep the level of performance where it was against Arsenal. I thought the team looked good. It looked confident. It defended well. I think it was a big upturn, but the consistency in that now, we need to back that up at home. Our home form's not been strong enough. So a lot riding on this weekend for us, I think.
Johan Wissa conducted an interview this week where he said, or he admitted that he thinks he maybe came back a little bit too early from his knee injury back in September because he was desperate to get back and playing. Is that something, looking at the bigger picture, is that something you agree with? And where is he at the moment? Because he got a bit of an extended run last week against Arsenal, of course missed the chance, but is he getting better, and was that maybe an issue, the fact he came back too soon?
Yeah, I think Johan's only issue, to be honest, in my opinion, was the injury that he suffered, and then the fact he hadn't trained before then as well. I think the combination of those two things meant that when he returned, he was not physically able to deliver the quality of performances that he traditionally has in the Premier League. I mean, he's outstanding for Brentford last year. And we've said consistently there's no doubting the quality of the player, but can we get him in a physical condition to deliver his best performances before the end of the season? That's been the challenge for us. I think since we've returned to full-team training, I think we've seen a big lift in his performances, because before then, trying to get him fit with very small numbers of training sessions with smaller, say, 6 players, it is tough. So we've seen an elevation in his performance levels. Been really pleased with him lately, and as long as he continues to show that upward trajectory again, I think we'll see the very best of him in the future.
Thanks, Keith. Andy?
Come on, Eddie. You can see in that interview with Johan just how much he loves the club, how much he's invested in the club as well. On a personal level, how disappointed have you been for him that he hasn't been able to get up to that physical level to perform in the manner that he would have wanted?
Yeah, really disappointed for him, because he came with such passion and enthusiasm, and he knew the importance of this season, not just for the team but for him, and he was ready to deliver, on the biggest stage, in the peak of his powers. And then, of course, the life of a footballer. He gets injured. And it's a long way back from that. And you come to a new club and you want to impress from minute one. And then add to the fact that he hadn't trained for a long period of time. It's been a real battle for him to get up to where he would normally consider himself to be. And he's been frustrated, I know, with that. And he's worked incredibly hard. We've done lots of different things to try and increase the speed of his return to full fitness, but it's only really the last couple of weeks that I think we've seen that, and he's now growing in confidence because he feels better. But of course now he's feeling a lot better within himself. It'll be great to see him deliver that consistently on the pitch, but of course, I've always got to do what's right for the team and pick the team that I think's best at this moment in time. But I know the very best of him is in the future, and I'm sure the supporters will see that.
I think you said a couple of weeks ago on Johan that it was his kind of best week in training that you'd seen. How sharp does Nick Voltemade look in training? Because I know he only had a short cameo against Arsenal, but he looked sharp down at the end.
Yeah, Nick's training well. I think, again, he's benefiting from the bigger sessions with 20 players that we've missed throughout the season. And now we're beginning to work with him on the things that we feel we needed to work with him earlier in the season, but we didn't have the opportunity to. I thought his pass for Johan was sublime against Arsenal. And it was great to see those two actually linked together and look like they could be a potential partnership for us.
Just finally, I saw a stat that kind of sums up the Premier League this season, I guess, that Newcastle could finish as high as 6th and as low as 18th potentially this season. How are the feelings going into the final few games, bearing in mind that huge swing of where you could ultimately end up?
Yeah, I think the feeling's been a good considering, and I say that we know we haven't had the results we wanted, but the lads have been, in those circumstances, I think as good as you could expect them to be, in the sense that they're hurting, they're disappointed, they're frustrated. There's a whole host of emotions in there, but I think they've kept their professionalism, their mentality to training. I think it's been excellent. It's very competitive. You can see the players want to deliver better than they are. There's a real collective spirit and determination to put it right. And as you say, the carrot is big the other way. And football we see flip from negative to positive very quickly, positive to negative very quickly. We have to make sure we flip that as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Andy. Nisha?
Morning, Eddie. Lewis Hall hasn't figured recently. How has he taken that, and how big a decision do you have, whether or not to bring him back in?
Yeah, I made the decision last week to change the back line in respect that we haven't kept enough clean sheets, and I felt we needed to change something. So obviously we changed our goalkeeper, we changed Lou's position, and I felt it had a positive response to the look of the team. And that's no reflection on Lewis, that's a reflection on just what the team delivered in that game. And also, there's pros and cons to every decision that you make, but we needed the height from set plays. That was a big thing in that particular game. We've conceded from too many corners, and we haven't scored enough from set plays as well the other way. So there was a sort of collective thought around that decision. And yeah, I mean, every player has to fight for his place, and when you play, you have to do enough to demand to stay in.
You'll have Joe Linton back available. How important could he be in these final few games where you have to get results?
Yeah, I mean, Joey's a massive part of what we do. He's got that will to win, that determination to fight for everything, every loose ball, every duel. He's there from the beginning of the game to the end. He's got that mentality that we need more of from more of the group. You see it from him every day in training. He's the one setting the standards in terms of that aspect. So when he's not playing, we certainly, I think, miss something of his unique qualities, and it would be great to have him back available. He's a huge player for us in a number of positions, so we're delighted to have him back.
And just finally, Brighton have so consistently been a team that Newcastle really struggled to beat. Do you feel any closer to unlocking what it will be to allow you to finally get that victory over them? Yeah,
we've had some tough defeats against them recently. I think they've all been pretty tight games, but they've fallen the wrong way for us. So, yeah, I don't think we can look back. You can look back at the games, obviously, from a tactical viewpoint, but in terms of the feeling. We need to look forward, and we need to use those past disappointments to spur us in this game.
Thank you. I'll go to Damien, Mark, Louise, and
Hi Eddie. Your meeting with the owners came on the day PIF announced that they were withdrawn from Live Golf. Were you given any assurances about their future financial backing for the club here?
No, and I didn't seek any either. That's a total separate entity and business. It was all football. It was big discussions, of course, on this season and lots of other aspects of the football club. Meetings were lasting right through the day. Obviously, I was part of a few hours of that. I didn't participate in the whole day because I was training here with the team. But I'd say that what came through was the determination to succeed and to continue to grow the club in every aspect.
Eddie, was there a kind of general feeling there that maybe some things need to change at the club, football-wise, to kind of move you forward? Or was it a feeling that maybe this has been a bit of a one-off of a season in terms of injuries and more games? What was the kind of general feeling, and what's your general feeling about that?
No, I think the analysis side of it, you have to do thoroughly, and we did. And so change is sometimes a really positive thing. So, yeah, there's no thought that we're stuck in one way, and I'm talking generally here, an overview of the football club. I think there's a consensus you have to keep evolving and you have to keep growing. Evaluating the past is good to a point, and then you need to take those lessons and adapt them to what you're going to do going forward. So in that sense, some good challenging conversations. That's part of the game that we're in. But then with a very clear vision of what's we need to do going forward.
Louise.
Hi Eddie. Now seems to be a consensus that Fabian Schär will leave at the end of this season. But do you think his absence with injury has been an underestimated part of your problem? Because apart from defending, I mean, clearly he can create chances, and he could play very well in a back three. I mean, he's a very tactically good player and good with the ball. And how difficult will it be to replace a defender with that quality?
Yeah, certainly no decision's been made on Fabian. So in terms of guesses and thoughts of his future, that he will be allowed to leave is very premature. Fabian, yeah, he's been a big miss for us, not underestimated by us at all. He is one of the most unique ball distributors, I think, in the Premier League. I don't think you'll see another player distribute the ball like he can and has done historically for us. He's been very creative from deep areas. We've certainly missed that ability to bypass an opponent's press that he gives us. And as you say, he's versatile. He's played on the left, on the right, in the middle, in a back three. Yeah, top player, but also very calming influence, very experienced. He's been a big miss. So, no, certainly I'm a massive fan of Fabian, always have been. I think one of the first things I did when I came here was put him into the team. So we hope he can get back to full fitness before the end of the season. And in terms of his contract, let's wait and see.
Thank you.
Morning, Eddie. In many respects, this season's been one of transition. With so many potential comings and goings in the summer, is it almost inevitable that next season might be another season of transition?
Yeah, well, I'd say let's see. I mean, I think to look to next season in terms of trying to describe it or predict it, I think it's far too early to do that. I think we're still very much focused on this season. Of course, there'll be decisions that will have to be made regarding the squad and the futures of a lot of players, and yeah, potentially who knows what's going to happen in the summer, recruitment-wise. But let's stick to the here and now. We've got 4 massive games coming up.
You've always spoken of the unity between yourself, David, and Ross. Is that same unity there with the PIF? There's no difference of aspirations or methodology
between
just the PIF. Do you feel everyone is speaking with one voice because they are the fourth of the pie chart, as it were?
Yeah, I feel there's unity within the football club, but of course, as I say, in my position, I'm under no illusions. I have to get results to keep that. To keep that feeling and that strength and that trust. I mean, that would be regardless of whatever moment we're in. I'm well aware that is a responsibility that comes with the job.
Scott Wilson.
Hi, Eddie. In terms of the kind of discussions, in terms of the summer and next season and things like that, how comfortable are you with the kind of the function of how that's going to work? Just looking, obviously in comparison to last summer, when I think we've all said the difficulties that there were in that. How comfortable are you with the kind of how the reality of making deals and signing players and potentially making decisions on players leaving is going to work?
Yeah, I think the structure's in place now, Scott. I think last summer was obviously very, very difficult for the football club. We're going into the biggest window that we'd had in recent memory without the infrastructure, and the club were well aware of that. It was an unfortunate situation. But now with Ross's expertise and experience, with David's expertise and experience, I think we're in a much better place to make quicker decisions, better decisions, conclude deals better and quicker. I think naturally, we're a lot stronger in that respect. Whether it's easier to do deals and to recruit players, well, that's sometimes unknown. But in terms of our part, I can assure everybody we'll be a lot better placed this season.
We'll go to Craig, Luke, and to Chris.
Morning, Eddie. What was said yesterday with regards to infrastructure, training ground, stadium, and how important is all of that?
Well, it's hugely important, Craig, and I can assure you that everyone at the football club knows that and respects that from top to bottom. Thankfully for me, having to answer that question, I wasn't involved in those discussions, so I can't give you anything. Unfortunately.
I think I have to be direct, if I may, but after your conversations yesterday, are you confident that you'll still be Newcastle United manager at the start of next season?
Yeah, I have to retain that confidence. I don't think that serves anybody not to have that long-term vision. So it's interesting how you do the job, because you do the job day to day and you're looking very much day to day. How can we prepare as well as we can for Brighton, with one eye on obviously next week, and then one eye on the summer, and one eye on next season. So that's always how I've managed. You're looking after the long-term interests while taking care of the very short-term aims that you need, and that will never change. And regardless of results, I think you have to have that for the benefit of the football club. You always got to think of the football club first. Now, we'll say we need to win games, Luke.
And just one more. And in terms of the recruitment, there's been a lot of stuff about it's going to be a slightly different approach. Are you all aligned? Are you aligned in the way that recruitment's going to work in the summer for what is supposed to be a rebuild? What is going to be a rebuild in the summer?
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of everything. I mean, I think if we can improve how we recruit players, I'm all behind it. If we can improve the amount of players that we're recruiting, I'm all behind it. I just want the best players at the lowest cost into the football club, because I think that's how the football club needs to work. And if we can find different ways to do that, I'm fully supportive.
Thank you.
Dominic, Jordan, and Martin, please.
Morning, Eddie. David Hopkinson doubled down on his 2030 plan this week. It's just 3.5 years away, 4 summer transfer windows. As the man tasked with spearheading that on the pitch, do you believe in the plan, and how do you help it come to fruition?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I think from my side, I don't get involved in that too deeply. My job is to try and create the best team, most successful team possible in the shortest time frame. I don't want to wait for success as much as David doesn't, as much as the football club doesn't. So I go into every game trying to win, every season trying to win the league. You know, that will never change in my mindset, because I don't think you can prepare for anything else. And then obviously you see where you land. So I think we're all fully unified. Whether that's achievable in that time frame, well, we'll have to wait and see whether that's possible.
So I'm going to go to Chris, then to Jordan. Chris.
Morning, Eddie. What was your actual involvement yesterday then? Did you present? What exactly was your message to the board as well?
Nice one, Chris. I presented. We discussed. There was, as I said earlier, challenging conversations, challenging questions, but that's all part of those meetings. I've had that every year, regardless of our league position. where you'll be challenged and probed on certain decisions that you've made, how we've ended up in certain scenarios, and then you explain, the process behind it. This year, of course, slightly more difficult questions because of our league position. There's no getting away from that. But the process behind it was exactly the same as it has been every year.
Yeah, I mean, just following on after speaking to the owners, what do you believe their view is on the season and how it's unfolded?
I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask them what their opinion on the season is. But of course, from our Premier League perspective, it's not been good enough. I can tell you that. From my side, we have to do better. We have to be more consistent. We need to win more games, and we have to get out the losing run that we're on.
Morning, Eddie. Is the desire of Piff still to get the club right to the top? And did he leave yesterday's meeting reinvigorated for next season?
The desire is unchanged. Yeah, it's to try and get to the top of the Premier League, to try and win as many trophies consistently as possible. That I don't think, while PIF are sole owners or part owners, majority owners, that will change. They've very ambitious for the football club, but a lot of the things that, of course, they need to do to elevate the club to that position take a bit of time. And then we're going back to the stadium, the training ground, the questions that Craig asked, that they're longer term plans. These things don't happen with a click of the fingers, because everything, of course, is interlinked to our income. So as much as everyone wants to fast forward that, sometimes these things, to get it right, do take a bit of time.
And reinvigorated for next season?
Yeah, I don't need reinvigorating. I'm invigorated. My motivation levels are really high. Yeah, I think you learn a lot from these moments that we're in. I'm learning a lot currently because the difficult runs force you to really, really evaluate everything and improve. So sometimes in the most disappointing moments are the times when you improve the most.
More Eddie, there's obviously a lot of talk about the long-term vision of the owners and the meeting in Maffin Hall, but in terms of the short to the medium term, have they given you any sort of target for next season and what they would deem a sort of acceptable season for Newcastle on the pitch?
In terms of targets, well, of course, the club will budget for certain things. I don't think it's right that I sit here and go through that. That's for the club to sort of identify. My target, internal target, as I said, is to achieve, is to win, is to maximise the sum of the parts that I have. That's always been what we've tried to do. I think we've done that every season I've been here, probably apart from this year in the Premier League, and that's been a disappointment for us.
Morning, I appreciate you can't look beyond these 4 games, but could you maybe let us in on your vision of how the club are going to bounce back next season? I mean, what do you want to do with this team and the club?
Yeah, I think the team, there will be an element of change. There always is, and there always has to be. I think with every transfer window, ideally, I've said this before, the aim is always to try and recruit in every window, and ideally not too many players, so you don't have probably the jump of 6 new players coming in as we had last summer. It's more of a drip feed approach. I think that's the best chance to have consistent success. But evolution and change and where the team goes, I think is really exciting, because I think with some really smart additions, some really good recruitment decisions, I think you can improve really quickly, as we've seen other teams from last year to this in the Premier League have done. So I think recruitment becomes the big focus and making sure we get that right.